Welcome back to the show, everybody. Let me try it this time with the microphone on. I'm so excited. We got a show for you today, and everyone thinks, well, you're conspiracy theorists. You think 4 or 5 digits for XRP going to be a bridge currency to the world. Well, guess what? Mainstream media is tripping over it now, too, and it's just getting started, ladies and gentlemen. I got a clip for you, and shout out to Big Skinny, and this may open the door for everything we've known for so many years for XRP and its potential to serve all the money. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradleyAbove and everything that we're talking about here today. $2.048 trillion crypto market cap, ladies and gentlemen. Bitcoin now 42,900 plus. Everything in the market's bleeding heavy right now. Ethereum is at $3,300 plus. Solana coming in at $149 and change. Cardano is $1.23. 76 cents for XRP. Blue light special on Isle Crypto for XRP. There you go. Right now, we are looking at 0.7264 on the low side and 0.8309 on the high side. Oh, I can feel myself backing the truck up. The numbers are brought to you by Private Invested Made Simple by Link2.com. Ladies and gentlemen, obviously, you have to be an accredited investor. And I think many of you hearing my voice not too long from now when this market decides to get up off the ground and take off because a real use case, practical application of these new payment protocols. I think a lot of you hearing my voice will be accredited investors, and you will be able to participate and buy private equity in these companies that are behind this amazing technology out here. And if you're not, I encourage you to sign up anyway, because if you do, you get access to a lot of data points from CB Insights that are provided to you for free by Link2. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of insights on all of these companies in many different sectors: blockchain, AI, robotics, automation. Make sure you check them out. Sign up even if you're not accredited. Let's focus on where we're going, not where we're currently at. 381 days and counting into the fight. The American crypto innovation under siege, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to ProCoin News, the best curator of news in the space. Samsung entered the metaverse. I told you guys about this, about Samsung releasing some TVs that will allow you to buy NFTs directly from your television. This is where we are going, and you're about to hear a lot more about where we're going to. Take this and let's frame this up before we get going here, because I think this makes so much sense. News is breaking today from CFTC. Rostin Benham was finally sworn in as the CFTC's 15th chairman on January 4, 2022, after being unanimously confirmed by the U.S. Senate. President Biden nominated Chairman Benham to lead the agency. Well, about time. And remember, Omarova was the nominee for the OCC. She's gone. Who's going to be in that seat? And if you think for a second, because I certainly do not, and you're welcome to think whatever you'd like, I do not believe for 1 second that these seats in these agencies have been left vacant by accident. Because this entire time, Gary Gensler has been doing a jurisdictional power grab for the SEC over the newest emerging asset class, digital assets and cryptocurrencies. And I believe he's doing it with free rein. And now we're seeing Rostin Benham come into this scene. And we also know that the President's Working Group, headed up by the U.S. Treasury, Janet Yellen, has told us if Congress does not get the legislation passed to free up the innovation in this market, the U.S. Treasury will do it for them. That's what they've said. And make no mistake about it, the U.S. Treasury does have that kind of power. Shout out to Spiritual Warlord, and Big Skinny sent me this, and I absolutely went crazy when I watched it. This is Glenn Beck's show, and he says here, I think they're trying to roll out an international currency, probably an international digital currency. He's on the phone with Justin Haskins from heartland.org, apparently, and they are hitting so close to what all of us already understand so clearly. I'm going to play you this 2 minutes, but we're going to have to go through it because there's so much that happens in it. I need to break it up and show you some things that really, really align with the conversation they are having. Let's listen to this first clip right here.
I want to quote some things here. The banks are appealing for emergency liquidity assistance in a multitude of currencies to put to a halt the chaos as counterparties withdraw their funds and limit access to liquidity, leaving the banks in disarray and ruin.
Let's stop right there. So he says the banks are really called to action for liquidity in a multitude of currencies, right? I'm paraphrasing here, as other counterparties are pulling out. Well, let me take you to this. Let me take you to this part right here. This is Brad Garlinghouse from Swell 2021. Before we start, yes, I'm going to play you very quickly the flip the switch comment that he makes, but stay with me here. I have a lot more for you to hear. Remember what the product was before Ripple Liquidity Hub came out, right? It was the lending program, the line of credit. And don't forget that they do have the Ripple Liquidity Hub as well. But I want you to hear this run of information. Let me set the stage right here, and then I'm going to move you to a new spot. Check it out.
We started building RippleNet with the thesis that crypto liquidity would eventually be able to support robust global payments, large payments. RippleNet was designed so that customers seeing the benefits of our fiat-based network could flip the switch to ODL once the market was mature enough. And this is exactly what's happening.
Now, let's understand that right there. So now, Glenn Beck's telling us that they're having trouble with liquidity in a multitude of currencies while counterparties are backing out because they know that there is a storm coming. So they don't want to continue to participate in all of this. Isn't it true? Now, the customers could see the fiat-based system and the fiat-based network that's already been created by RippleNet, right? And then they could flip the switch to on-demand liquidity once the market was mature enough. And I don't think that's the only answer either. Not only is the market got to be mature enough, but you can make the market mature enough. And we'll get into that in a second. Matter of fact, we'll get into it right now. You can make the market mature enough by collateralizing the XRP ledger. That's right. You could take some of this locked up dormant money that's been locked up since there's been cross-border payments, and you could take a portion of that and collateralize the XRP ledger by backing these digital reserve assets like digital dollars of the world. In fact, XRP could be the digital dollar for the US if they wanted to be on the CBDC wholesale back end. Could it not? Certainly it could. But I want to take you here now to this clip where we're going to hear him talk about, Brad will talk about line of credit and some other important points in this as I take you back to the Glenn Beck clip in just 1 second. Listen to this.
It's been about a year now since we launched another product called Line of Credit. Line of Credit offers the ability to have delayed payment terms for our ODL customers. Now, this product came about by listening to our customers' pain points, listening to them around the limited access to working capital, the expense of working capital, as a huge barrier to growth and their ability to scale.
Now, very quickly here, I want to remind you what Glenn Beck said. There's a liquidity crisis in a multitude of currencies with the banks. Now, this line of credit is XRP virtual currency, which allows them to have access to this without needing the access to other currencies of the world. They could use this one currency, XRP, this virtual currency, this bridge asset, and use that to get over the friction and problem of holding many different currencies as other counterparties pull out of the other side of that transaction. Very, very key point here. Now, I want to take you to another part, back to the Glenn Beck here. Let's listen here. Continue.
Participants discussed multilateral policies to respond to the crisis, including a coordinated bank holiday. A bank holiday, when they say coordinated, throughout the entire West, not just the Western Hemisphere, the entire West.
A bank holiday, huh? Oh, you mean a bank holiday like in the Great Depression back in 1939, responding to the events caused by the Great Depression? President Franklin Roosevelt declared a banking holiday, ordering all banks in the United States closed until government audits declared them solvent. In essence, Roosevelt declared a holiday for all the banks in the United States. Glenn Beck is talking about something more uniform and much larger. But nevertheless, you get the hint. All of this leans into the idea of a reset as much as it does a liquidity crisis to boot, right? So listen to here. We're not done.
All countries. Debt repayment grace periods, swap repro agreements.
This would be haircuts on the debt, right? Whether it be on the interest side or whether it be on the obligation of the principal. But nevertheless, haircuts is what you're talking about here. Forgiveness, jubilee.
And listen to this, coordinated delinking from major currencies.
Coordinated delinking from major currencies. Are you hearing this? You know, we know that the IMF has a basket for the SDR, and every 5 years they do an evaluation of the weighted averages on those 5 major currencies. US dollar is obviously the largest one at this point, but they have put off in the last year or so putting that weighted average and doing that reevaluation of currencies on that basket. Could we see that done sometime this year because it's been put off and delayed? Here's the other thing I want to play for you as well. I covered this a year ago. This is Barry Eichengreen, right? Who was on Blockstar's podcast with David Schwartz. Here he's going to talk to you about the failure of fiscal policy and other attempts to do things, and they all don't work. And at the end of the day, it's going to leave us with the situation and the problem that we're in currently today. And that is the Triffin dilemma, which is when a national currency like the US dollar also serves a role as the global reserve currency for the world. The stress and the pressure on that dollar is become too great for the world and the situation we're in when you compound it with a liquidity crisis that was here before the pandemic, and then the pandemic itself, the printing of all the trillions of dollars, and then to reignite this economy globally. How do you do it? I tell you how you do it. You digitize all the fiat money of the world. You introduce a bridge asset like XRP. And you drive value into that asset by collateralizing the protocol that it all runs on.
But the conclusion, to my mind, is depressing because it implies that monetary policy is less effective than we have traditionally thought. In a world where sterilized intervention doesn't do much, monetary policy and exchange rate movements go together. When you're at the zero lower bound, monetary policy works even more heavily by moving the exchange rate because it can't move the interest rate. And if it really is the case that you get less stimulus to exports and less oomph from monetary policy generally, I think it's incumbent on all of us to think about what to do instead. So is this project an argument for fiscal policy? That's depressing, because fiscal policy is heavily politicized. Fiscal policy works with even longer lags typically than monetary policy. What do we need to do in terms of reforming our fiscal institutions if we're going to have to rely on them more heavily? And the second part of the question would be, what do we have to do to get out of this position of dollar dominance, because it has the undesirable effect of weakening monetary policy? And it will run up sooner or later against the 21st century Triffin dilemma problem.
There you have it. Can't say it any better than him. And he's telling you that what do we have to do to get away from this US dollar dominance? Isn't that fall in line with what Glenn Beck is talking about here? Delinking currencies? Think of it. There's many currencies around the world that are backed and pegged to the US dollar itself. We know there's a huge relationship between the petro situation and the US dollar. Do we not? Of course we do. How do you do this? Well, let's keep listening.
What does that mean?
I think that means they're trying to figure out a way to roll out an international currency. That's what I think it means. Probably an international digital currency, which is something that people in the Great Reset movement, like Mark Carney, who is heavily involved in many of these meetings that's been going on in Glasgow and elsewhere.
Mark Carney, who's been heavily involved. Remember when we covered here the President's Working Group of 30, excuse me? Look here, page 31, where Mark Carney in the same year, 2019, going all the way back, brought up the idea of a systemic hegemonic currency could dampen the spillover shocks associated with the dominance of the U.S. dollar that Barry Eichengreen was just talking about as a reserve currency. For example, a stablecoin could be backed by a basket of deposits at different central banks. Is this not the diagram that I've just shown you right here? Backed by a deposit by different central banks brought to the ledger to back the reserves of these stable coins and digital dollars and CBDCs on this network. This could help relieve the stress and pressure off the US dollar because now it can just be a dollar like everybody else's dollar. It can still be in demand. And in fact, who knows? Maybe the Fed and the Treasury have been buying all that XRP all this time from the taco stand wallet from Jed McCaleb so they don't get it directly from Ripple. I'm just thinking out loud. It's probably nothing. But at the end of the day, you look at all of this and understand that he is describing exactly the diagram I just showed you about a stablecoin backed by a basket of deposits at different central banks. It is possible that such a stablecoin be valuable for cross-border payments, serving a function similar to that offered in the private sector by Ripple, a real-time gross settlement system, currency exchange, and remittance network whose digital currency, XRP, leapfrogs slow and expensive correspondent banking. This is exactly the role of XRP. If you are wondering what the real full-scale intended use of this asset is, you wonder no more, because this is the full-scale intended use of XRP. And it is where we're going. If you haven't seen the video from this morning and yesterday's videos, I highly suggest you watch it about SWIFT, the American Banking Association, sending a letter to the Fed and telling them they're going to do a single-day switchover to ISO 20022, and that is tied directly in to Ripple, XRP, and Stellar and XLM. They are the only two projects involved in the digital asset space that are also members on that standards body committee for that new payment language for the financing world, which will give access to the settlement of digital assets. This is what we're talking about. This is where we're going. And now Glenn Beck's kind of got his thumb on it. We should reach out to Glenn Beck too. See if he'd like to have a roundtable on all of this. Let's get John Deaton there as well. He would love this story in every angle and facet there is to it. Keep listening.
Where with the World Economic Forum, I believe that that's what they ultimately want, and that they're looking for a way to try to make this happen. And I think that they're running different scenarios for how this could occur, and these so-called cyber attacks and fake news, the proliferation of fake news causing some kind of financial catastrophe, supposedly, are some of the scenarios that they're thinking could be used as a way to roll out an international currency. I think that's the only way to understand what a coordinated delinking from major currencies is.
And this really highlights what we've talked about here a lot on this channel, right? Is the cyber attacks we've seen. What did we see? We saw the oil pipeline, U.S. largest oil producer, cyber attack. We saw the same thing happen with the largest meat producer, cyber attack. One of the largest IT companies, cyber attack. Payment company that serves internationally that works at, or they use at my wife's company, cyber attack. All ransomware where they had to pay a ransom, right? All of this serves to be a catalyst to show the obvious, the GameStop manipulation, using social media to be able to do what the elite have done forever in the markets. But at the end of the day, it's all to set a tone. It's all to create a narrative that the market infrastructure is vulnerable and antiquated. And that is accurate. But the answer is moving to these protocols. The value is in the protocols. The price of the token is a distraction, is the way Glenn Hutchins used to say it. And I still agree with him to this day about it. Now let's listen to this.
What does that mean to the average person, their savings, their salary, and everything else, if there's, quote, a major delinking from major currencies?
Well, what we've seen in the past is anytime there has been a switch to a currency, when they've gotten rid of an old kind of currency and they've moved to a new sort of currency.
And this is
every time we've seen this, people lose 50% of the value of their money, essentially. Sometimes more. That's
when.
Now we're talking. Now we're getting down to the rubber meets the road. History says to Justin Haskins that every time we have a global reserve currency change, there's a 50% loss in the value of that currency because it's been taken off the throne, right? That's what we're looking at here. And then that's when you get into a situation where that domino effect of that devaluation goes into some sort of haircut debt jubilee, right? Whether it's on the interest side or more than that. All of this really points to the larger issue, too, that we've heard from Ray Dalio. This is cyclical. The system is at a peak, is it not? It really is at a peak at this point. It's at a peak of collapse, and it needs to change. And what we're looking at is the potential to move from a debt-based system that we have been in for so long to an asset-backed system. And again, I take you to this. If you bring enough assets that have been digitized and tokenized and bring that collateral onto the ledger from many different areas of investment, derivative products, stocks, bonds, metals, all the different metals, and a certain amount of percentage of collateral from that industry. Diamonds, right? You bring everything from every different sector of the economy and collateralize it. Dollars themselves, crypto assets. And if you bring a balance of all these different areas of the economy and collateralize these things to a certain degree on the ledger, you can provide a floor price for a bridge asset that is the native token of that ledger, the XRP token. And that is how you get real money without overinflating it just from buying it and trying to drive the price up. You have to bring liquidity and utility together. And one key thing to understand about that is the liquidity has to come from the same place that the utility comes from. And that's the financing, banking world, and the central banking system. Don't believe it. It's still true. Look, that's going to do it for me. Shout out to Big Skinny for this. Man, we're on fire today. I tell you, this is really exciting, understanding everything else that is in motion about ISO 20022 tokens and the new payment language for the financial world. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment below. Ladies and gentlemen, do not forget about I Trust Capital. I'm telling you what, this company is remarkable. The best crypto IRA on the planet, bar none. 1% trade fee, no monthly account fee. It's remarkable what they offer, and they are the best in the business, and you can trade and move your assets around very easy once you're inside that platform. Make sure you check them out in the link in the description and comment box, and I'll catch all of you on the next one.